agenda.
Next item on the agenda, Mayor and City Council to discuss and consider request for reallocation of budget funds from the Chamber of Commerce. Eve here.
Good evening, Ms. Williams.
Good evening, my trusty new assistant. It was good looking and sitting to the side. Helping pass out information. Okay, now, you know, while he does that, let me state that we made this clear to you before on the previous date. To reallocate the funds that we manage to hold on to. And we consider ourselves as regarding the fiscal management of the CBD budget as being good management, in that we did not spend our entire budget, because we did have unknowns out there. The Soljazz Festival was a festival that it brought a lot of people to the city. We had, according to reports, over 3,500 people attend various things throughout the 10-day period. It didn't make the money that it was supposed to, and we're sorry about that. And it probably wasn't managed the way I would have ideally liked it to be managed. My board, I admit, trusted me. I trusted the management company, and I think we both failed the board and the city. Much of the control of the Soljazz was not in our. We hired somebody to, as you know, Jim Stone, to control the budget and control the project. And to our dismay, a lot of the things that we found out about this thing, about the vendors that are now owed, came after the fact. And so that be as it may, we feel that still these are vendors that trusted their contract or what they were being told by the person that engaged them to perform the services that they performed. There was also not necessarily an express, but an implied duty to them. That this event was being, at least it had the city's name on it, it had the school district's name on it, and it had the chamber's name on it. And they trusted, and they performed. We weren't part of the negotiations, and many of these folks, we didn't know who they were until days later. It's like 30 days. We didn't even know the amounts of what was owed until sometime after the event ended. Because we have a lawyer on our board, and he has advised me not to even say as much as I've said. I'm sure he's cringing somewhere. I felt it necessary to at least apologize and tell you that we're deeply sorry. But we do not think that the people who performed in good faith, those people who are largely, a lot of them are from DeSoto. Some of them are not from DeSoto. But they came here under good faith, and they thought this was an opportunity to make a difference. And so what I have in front of you, trustee assistant, do you have one to give all that?
I'll give it.
So what I did was I simplified things. As I presented this before, and all but Councilwoman Ledbetter was here and heard it before, I do have some changes that I've made. One of the things that and as much as I hate to make an error, one of the things that I have is that it was not 60-some-odd thousand, 62,000 was the magic number. It actually was 64. It was 50. We neglected to include the projected amount for August and September into our balance. or subtract that. So in going back to review this one more time, out of the column, I've also modified a little bit of the projected August and September. And I present to you a restated 10 months ending July 31st. And there's an amount that has not been spent. And today what we're asking is to reallocate $50,730 from the budget that we had for FY12 for some of the same functions that our line items indicated, albeit not for that event, but for advertising, marketing, and promotion and those sorts of things. The other page that you have in front of you is much of what you've seen before, and it is the first page. Can you give me, bring me that, what you got? Pardon me for not keeping it. Okay, how about the ones on the floor? I just need one down.
Did this change?
The front page, no, it did not change. This did not change. Well, I take that back. What I've done is I've modified it in such a way to make it simple. Okay. Before we go to the front page, let's skip to the second page. And Councilwoman Ledbetter, you weren't here for most of this, so I'll just briefly go through this. We have available cash available for the event of about $19,515. I should say about, that is the number. And the amount available after September 30th, we estimate to be $50,730. That came from this sheet here. So the purpose of this sheet again was to show you the amount that we have available to reallocate, which would bring us down to about $70,245. The verified unpaid third-party claims that were made by Gemstone that we were able to verify and conclude that these folks performed and are due their money is $75,1800. Now that went up by $400 because there was somebody else that sent. Actually, they had sent it the day before, and I didn't get it from the district. So there's $75,000 for verified outstanding claims that we think that at least we have almost enough money to pay them. And we would still be short $4,773. Now, the third page is a little cleaned up version of what we gave you last time. And here are all the folks that are on the list. Some of these people have been by our offices, and they have expressed the fact that they want to pay. Many of these folks we've never seen before, we didn't know, but we do know that now that they are due this money. So in those backup pages actually feed into the first page. And the only time I'm talking about unverified claims, I came in before, and maybe it was too much information. So I took off unverified claims out of everything else. And today, they still haven't been verified, and so I'm concentrating on those squeaky wheels. And the third-party claims. So the outstanding verified claims are still carried on here on the bottom of the first page. There's 13,000. I still show you the advance from board member 27 and the unsubstantiated Gemstone claims of 67 on the front page.
On the last page, maybe at one point, on the last sheet, this is a little different, like you said, from the last one. It did have some staff on there, so the names, where are those staff people?
Well, what we had to do is we had to spend a lot of time going through the consultant's books in order to figure things out. What I did was I printed out what Maurice had prepared, and those parties should. Maurice is our executive board, and he is an attorney.
Okay, so he's the attorney representing that, right?
No, he's an attorney on our board.
Okay, so he's not representing
Called pro bono.
Yeah, I understand what it means, but he's the same, he's not saying it, but last time you were, so I'm just.
At this point in the proceeding, I am. At some point, like I said before, we may have to obtain outside counsel.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the things that, those were an outside vendors, and so I'm looking at outside parties.
Okay, so you took the staff people off, right?
Yeah, I took off everybody who was not a part of what, something you couldn't see over here that says these are verified and out third parties. I narrowed it down to those folks that were verified and third party vendors.
Well, I thought that's what was given to us last time.
I made a mistake and gave you everything that he had given me, but they did not include, they were not a part, that total was not a part of 74,000 at the time, 75,000.
Oh.
That's why it didn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I simplified it and I only showed you verified. Those are part of non-verified. Or they weren't third party.
Okay, because I was the one that was asking questions about which one was verified and which one weren't verified. So what you have provided is completely verified.
Just verified.
These are the ones that, if I remember correctly, we talked about you did 45 days worth of checking, and that's what you found. Right, that's what these verified ones.
I took your suggestions from before and I tried to clean it up and make it a little bit more clear and streamline what I'm asking. Okay, because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This one question. Going back to the control the budget and manage the project. That was one contract with Jim Stone, is that right?
Yes.
To do both parties. Do we know who actually completed that contract? Was that you that signed the contract with Jim Stone?
It would have been the president.
Okay. So then it would have fallen through this, as the chamber or the CDB?
The chamber.
Okay. And when you mentioned the city did some sponsorship.
Yes.
Okay, and so did the ISD.
Yes.
But they're not officially part of the contract.
No.
Okay.
But the perception from a third party.
I'm just looking at the fact.
Right.
I'm just making sure. So on paper, Jim Stone and the chamber president made an arrangement, and the city and ISD and several other entities made.
The board has a vote on that contract.
Okay.
Okay.
So
whose signature on it is just protocol. But the board agreed to the contract with Jim Stone.
well, there's still a representative, so whether it's, a person had to sign it. So you're saying the president signed it, and yes, the executive board does give that power to the president to do that. So that's what I was asking. So you answered that question for me. Thank you. The other question I was asking was about the sponsorship, because you mentioned the inference of the perception. And we know sometimes perception is different than reality. And if the contract is, if the city and or the ISD or any other entities who chose to be sponsors, they're not officially a part of that contract. That is correct? We're talking the same language? Very true. That's all. That's all I have for right now, just making sure we're talking the same language.
Councilwoman Dow.
We've been talking about a contract and the fact that there is a contract. So we know that the city did not sign one with the chamber when the 130 was granted, or when you were authorized to reallocate funds from the previous year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, but the city granted those funds for a specific purpose. What about the contract? Since it suggested the city should have a role in, by authorizing reallocation of now I believe, what, it's 50,000,
50,000.
yeah. We've not seen that contract at all, but I think you've answered the questions. There was no reference to the city, nobody from the city signed, so that clarifies that for me, because if I were part of a contract, I mean,
You want to have a copy of that contract.
exactly.
But because the city is not a part of this, you don't want to have a copy of it.
Council, and I can confirm, the city is not part of the contract with Gemstone. We're not, there's no privity of contract between the city or with Gemstone.
And that's just, it's clear to me then, because you know my position. We had no part.
And so, you know, here, we're talking about the folks that are listed here on the back. There are other folks who are not listed here that we're not talking about today. Because simply we don't have the money in our budget to pay them. And as I mentioned before, we were not aware of all these costs before or during the concert. And so we're just trying to make these people whole. These specific people, not me, not Meredith, not the other unverified parties. Just these folks, because that's the money we have. We think we have the money.
Have you satisfied your current contract in place? Have you paid based on the contract that you have already documented? Have you, the money that we have given you, did that assist you in paying for meeting, satisfying the requirements of that contract?
Oh, yes, that's on this front page here, here at the top.
What about? It's
the first page. It's the first page of the staple sheet. It's entitled Soljazz Event Statement of Income Expected
Cash basis?
Yes.
Okay.
And it shows there the sources of cash.
Okay, so the 130 from the city and the 5760. I thought we did more than that. But of these two, this money you've already allocated properly to
We
the.
spent it.
I know, you spent it. I'm asking you if you spent it in the right place. That's what I'm asking. Did you spend it did you spend it in satisfying the contract with Gemstone?
We spent it on the items listed here under cash expenses paid.
Well, say that another way, because that's not registering.
We spent $303,000 except for $19,515 on project management, security, marketing, event expense, talent, miscellaneous, and sales tax.
Okay, you go into the cash space. So, my yes or no question about if the 130 and 5760 were spent for the satisfy the Gemstone contract, you're saying is a yes because you have that in it plus the excess amount, right?
Yes. It was a part of what satisfied the expenses paid, yes.
So you're saying that you don't owe, according to the contract you signed, you don't owe Gemstone any additional funds? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not at liberty to talk about that exactly. I can only talk about, only thing I'm here today to talk about is the people that we know that we do owe.
There's a dispute.
There's a dispute
between
about
Gemstone and the chambers as to what the actual terms of that contract are today and how much is still outstanding. But that's not on this board right here. That's going to be months down the road working that out.
Well, that's why I was asking about the numbers, because it's pretty cut and dry when you have a contract.
Not in this situation, it's not.
Okay, so the way the contract was drafted and written is what's messing it up.
There's vagueness in it, that's correct.
Councilman, I think it's obvious they have a dispute. I think they're uncomfortable talking about what that dispute is as it relates to that agreement.
Well, if you're coming at, and I hear what you're saying, Joe, and I appreciate that. what I am trying to merely get to, I'm one of those root people, get what's the bottom, let's get it in the budget. So if the issue is the dollar amount, is the dollar amount that you're asking for, is the dollar amount that's going to satisfy the contract that exists? Or you're asking the city to say, well, since this may look bad on you because you chose to be a sponsor to an event to help support and promote something within the city, then now we want you to pay something that we don't have a contract with, which are some vendors you're saying that have been verified in the 4 to 5 day auditing process.
We're
That is
saying
correct?
all of that is vague. All of those terms are vague.
Can I
in the
try?
contract.
What I think they're saying is that the dispute between Chamber and Gemstone still exists. This does not resolve the issue in that respect. That's what they're saying.
Okay, so if we put money toward it, we're not fixing it.
We're not fixing the dispute between Gemstone and the Chamber. What we are doing.
Getting the subcontractors paid off. The
Exactly.
work that was performed on behalf of Gemstone was performed on behalf of the chamber. So they're paying off their subcontractors.
We're paying off Gemstone subcontractors.
That have been
And that
verified.
will,
They've been verified.
that's correct. And that, in essence, is working on the contract and dispute between Gemstone and the Chambers.
But you're asking us to fix it, right?
No.
You're
I'm
asking us
understanding.
to make
No,
it.
we're merely asking, we're in charge of, as the management of convention business group, we're in charge of promoting events, publications, marketing, bringing tourism into the city. We had an event that we thought was going to do that, and it did, it just didn't do it enough, okay? We would have liked to have had a lot of folks here, a lot more folks, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 folks.
Yeah,
Those
more than
folks-
larger scale.
Those folks didn't show up. But by the same token, in our capacity to invite people to the city, we did that. There are some people who are going to be hurt by the fact that they had a contract with Gemstone and now they won't, apparently there's not enough money to pay them out of the proceeds that were dedicated to Soljazz. However, we have money in our budget that we did not spend. I think it was good fiscal management because we had a lot of publicity out there and it didn't make sense to overkill and overspend in other areas when we had this event going on. And we did market the city. Anyone listening to the radio, they heard that radio spot spoken every 5 minutes. If you went down 35, you saw billboards. If you went out to 635, you saw billboards. We did that marketing. But unbeknownst to us, we have some expenses that we did not know about at the time of the event that we'd like to take care of. It has nothing to do necessarily with, it has to do with appreciating and also the fact that we're a Chamber of Commerce and our mission is to promote economic development, stimulate the economy, okay? And that's what we attempted to do. Was it the best thing? No. And so I'm asking to, here again, to reallocate the money that we have in our budget for events such as this to this event to pay off these folks here.
Eve, I have a question. How did you decide who appeared on this sheet 3? You said there are other vendors that are still pending. How did you determine that these, was it, their invoices came in first?
No. I'll let Maurice talk about his strategy or his investigation. He did a full investigation of sort of like, I won't say an audit because I know better, but he did a full investigation of what Gemstone was presenting as the result. It took 40 days. And in that, he verified and called these people. They told him what they had done. He looked at the invoice and they said, yes, that's the amount, or I don't know if he probably asked them what's owed rather than give them amount. And these are the folks who said, yes, this is what I owe. There was another $13,000, a large portion of that is like $10,000. That they have never returned a phone call, they have not pursued it, we've left messages. So we only need to take care of the folks who care about us and the money we have, or could have.
If I understand this right, we, the council provided out of city or public funds, $130,000 sponsorship. Some $5,760 in funding for security. Is that what that is?
Yes.
And out of your 11-12 budget, about $51,000 almost. That's money expended, right?
Yes.
And that $51,000 was about a third of your budget, was it not?
No.
How much?
This was FY, this was some of FY 11 money,
Yeah.
and this was some of FY 2012.
The bottom line is it's over $180,000. And you are seeking now to make these vendors, at least in part whole, another $50,000. So we're into this thing for $250,000 should we opt to allow this other money to be spent.
Yes.
Now, you paid a project manager $101,000,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that was to organize the event. And, you know, I have yet to see, this thing is really murky. There's no contract on the table, there's no invoices on the table, there are no checks on the table. All we have is this to commit another $50,000 to. And the thing doesn't smell right. It just doesn't smell right. And, we have no obligation in this, none, zero.
Well, yes, I realize that.
And, this is an issue or a dispute now between Chamber of Commerce and the, your contractors. That's where the fight is. You're just coming to us saying, let's help out these poor people. Let people go after the contractor. Got $101,000, that's more than settled it. But it certainly doesn't involve the city or any additional city money.
No, it does not.
And I would have to have a whole lot more on the table before I would be comfortable with anything I'm looking at.
Now, in the other parts of the budget that we spend, like the DFW kiosks, the Texas Monthly, the other promotional things, the baseball, all of those things, I don't recall you ever asking for invoices or, if that's what you want, then I'm prepared to send those.
Eve, I wouldn't, for what we committed to this thing, I wouldn't ask you for anything. We did that. We approved your budget and you spent it. We approved a sponsorship, if you will, and you took it and spent it. But now you're coming back and asking us to fix a really big problem that's not of our making or our doing. Obviously there was gross mismanagement, negligence, incompetence, or whatever you want to say about this, that didn't involve the city. Didn't involve any of us. And it's not our problem to fix that. And you can say, well, we didn't spend this money in the budget. Okay, maybe you didn't. Maybe there were good reasons that you didn't. But I think there's a higher and better use for that money than fixing your problem.
Well, I wouldn't say that you're fixing my problem. I would say that the city wanted to have an event. Did you not?
Yeah, and we paid.
Yes.
We paid an amount to have this event, $130,000 sponsorship. And, that's probably as big a chunk of money as I can ever recall us spending on any single event in this town. So that was a most generous amount we put into this.
I want to try.
Ms. May, would you identify your position?
I'm Melinda May. I'm the immediate past chair of the chamber. And Councilman Westwood, I understand exactly what you're saying. You're giving us the money to put on an event. $130,000. The event wasn't managed properly. Now we're coming back asking the city for additional money. But $50,000, and the $50,000 is coming from fiscal year 2011 and 2012. What we spend in attorney fees is going to be equivalent to that. Any third-party vendor that sues, they will put everyone in the bucket. They will not. Now the city doesn't have a contract with any of these vendors. The chamber doesn't have a contract with any of these vendors. So when they put everybody in the bucket, we have to each hire an attorney to handle and say that we're not part of the contract. So the $50,000 can resolve the issue, make the third parties whole, and we can move on, and we know that this is not a mistake that we need to make again.
Linda, that's largely a red herring. The chamber doesn't have any money to sustain a lawsuit. Who's going to sue you if you have no recovery?
That's right, but we still have to get an attorney to represent us. Who are we going to?
Pro bono, he's sitting right there.
No, he's not going to do it pro bono.
Council, I've heard quite a bit from you, and let me just say this. If you were coming to this council, if you were coming to me and asking for an additional $50,000, I would say the same thing I said, as you pointed out early on, that I was the only one that didn't support this. I would say no. So you're not coming to us for an additional $50,000. What you're coming to us for is to say you want to take out of your current budget what you currently have to pay your obligations. Now, I'm not a lawyer. However, if I'm a vendor here and you owe me money and you have it in your bank account, then you should pay it. From a scriptural standpoint, you should pay it if you have it. Now, if you didn't have it, then we're talking about a different story. I stood alone then. But, you know, this council approved it. I don't think that it is American, I don't think it's right to sit here and you've got money in your bank account and you just refuse to pay. If you've got it, then pay it. I mean, these folks have worked, they've got their businesses, they've rendered their services, pay it. That's where I am. We're at the same place we were a couple of weeks ago. I'm not saying that to try to convince you otherwise. You have a different position on this. I respect that. But, you know, and Councilwoman McCowan is new to the council, so she didn't vote on this. But I can say,
if I had,
okay,
I still wouldn't support
okay,
reallocating
and
to pay the vendors.
you know, I'm not trying to do the Monday morning quarterback. I know what I did, and yet right is right. You know, and that's where I am on this. If you didn't have it, then we're talking a different story, because I could stand where I stood then, and if that meant I'm standing by myself.
The money is the
Okay.
money, not the chambers.
One moment, Councilman Reskus. Okay, and the money is the hot fund. Let's just make sure we understand that's not ad valorem tax, it's not sales tax, it's hospitality tax that is restricted to be used for certain purposes.
Well, Mayor, everybody knows where the money is around this table. Everybody knows that your perception of what is right may not necessarily be what is right, because there was a contract. And I'm not sitting here, in my opinion, it's the same as before. It's the precedent we would set. And that's what I think is right to look at. No disrespect to you, but just because the money is there does not mean the council should feel we're doing something wrong, or those of us who disagree, that we're doing something wrong by not supporting the reallocation to pay third-party vendors. What is right is that the contractor hired by the chamber, operating as the CBB, should pay the third-party vendors. That is what is right. And then if the chamber wants to take some steps, the chamber board perhaps, to do what is, to help them do what is right, then they should come together. I asked if there was a plan B. I said, what is the plan B? Because you think that list is complete today. You said the squeaky wheel. Well, the wheel will get squeakier based on my experience. If the council decide or votes to allow the reallocation, the wheel, we've just set the stage for the wheel to get squeakier. Those people who are not on this list tonight, believe me, they will show up. They will show up. And so I'm still opposed to, and as sensitive as I am about people getting paid, but I'm also very sensitive to the fact that we as a council have to be concerned about the president we set not only for the chamber, but for any other group the council allocates money to. And so that's my position.
Okay, all right. Before your rebuttal, Councilman Gressels.
I don't know, Councilman Cowan made my case pretty well there. I agree in 100% that it would be a dangerous and slippery slope for us to just approve this.
Okay.
So I guess you know where I stand.
So she changed her position?
No, she didn't change my position at all. She reinforced it,
Okay.
stated it in a much more eloquent and nice way.
Okay, very well.
Well, Mayor, I have something to say about that. I think there's lessons learned from all of this. I remember a year ago, we talked about the event, and we supported it at a level that we wanted it to be successful. I mean, it was 130,000 that I recall, and it's on the page. Not everybody supported the event, wasn't unanimous. We talked about it being such a short period of time. Was it even possible? We even debated the date. Because it was a year long enough to really do something. But I believe that we wanted it to be successful. I was disappointed in the numbers. I didn't expect it to be 5,000 the first year. But I also know that these vendors, some of them live in our community. And I believe that we've already allocated the money. It's there. If they were asking for new money, I would feel the same way. But it's money that is there that has already been approved. And I would want to support the vendors in our community, not getting the shaft. So, no, I was just going to say that my position is that the vendors should be supported, and as long as it doesn't include new allocation, and as long as it doesn't go to a lawyer, and it looks like it's not, it's going to vendors.
Well, the thing about all of this is it is money, and money is transit, just like people are. And it does have limitations. What we have done in the past, when we presented with this idea, and you're right, Patricia, we were asked to support it. They even gave us the date and gave us this wonderful reason as to why that date would be a good date. The length of time, we listened to all of that. We shared with us the level of professionalism and prestige of the management team. So, we had a lot of great, we had a lot of information that we believe to heart. I'm not at all questioning the management team. I am concerned that we're just moving money around. If the contract originally is with the chamber and DeSoto, then they should work that out. If it's $50,000 and if this number is changed in 1 month, Eve, I know you made a mistake, but if this month is changed in less than 1 month, that means the money can move again. So that means we even more uncomfortable to do another level of reallocation. Reallocation means that you're giving something up. you're moving money from one space to another space. And when I look at that, that means for the rest of this fiscal year, whatever was earmarked or budgeted is now all going to be spent in one location. Is one big pot that's going to the Soljazz Festival / now vendors who we're not officially responsible for. Yes, it's nice to make sure that individuals who are within our city get paid, but it's even nicer when the contract is maintained and is managed. And that didn't happen. And so for that reason, and along with the other portion here of saying no to the other expenses and the other things that are anticipated for this rest of this fiscal year, plus the money that was there prior, I don't want to give another reallocation. That's what started the last discussion, the one we just had, because even if you do whatever dollar amount you say, you can always reallocate, and that means something else is suffering. I don't think we should suffer.
I agree with lesson Well,
Okay. President Williams, are you finished, Councilman?
I think so.
Okay.
I would look at it as suffering. Sometimes there's a better use for money, or sometimes what you might have thought you wanted to say, and there seems to be something else that may be a better use for it. So I don't want any suffer. I don't think that anything in our budget is suffering because we didn't spend the money. I think that if anything, we had more advertising spent with the dollars that we did spend than we ever would in 2 years.
And we gave you money for that.
And we spent it.
Okay, and you spent it, and that you spent is still stuck between an issue that's beyond our control, which is the management and the budget. That is all on the side. And the portion, I did use the word suffering, because we are suffering. We're still sitting here talking about something happening for general. This will impact the citizens and their dollar amount. That they have, there's actually a suffering piece that comes with it. Part of that is the image. And that's what you came to us talking about last time, is the image of DeSoto and the chamber and the image of the ISD. That's all a black eye. But you need to put some color lights on the black eye and not some more money to it.
At some point, somebody's got to stand up and take responsibility for their own actions or inactions. We didn't mess this thing up as a council here, but yet everybody comes to us to fix it. You need to fix your own problems.
Council, I wish we had this tough talk then, before this was approved. And I know you may be sitting there saying, well, it's easy for you to say, but I think we should have had more due diligence done at the beginning. We wouldn't be at this point. Now we are here. We're all adults around this table. We've been elected to make a decision, and certainly, whether you define it as the right thing or the better thing to do, we all have our own opinions of what is the right thing to do. I'm hearing a chamber that is a part of the fabric of this community, that is the voice of the small businesses in our community, say to us, just allow us to reallocate the funds. I don't know of any of the boards and commissions that have not, from time to time, had to make some adjustments to their budget. I don't. But I know that you knew when this decision was made, you counted the cost. I mean, you're in business, you counted the cost. And I think there's enough blame to spread around this room, because we're all participants in this, whether I voted for it or against it. At the end of the day, we're one council. And so I think we've discussed this. Certainly, it sounds like Councilman Zander, it sounds like you have an opportunity, you'd like to state something. So all means.
I agree with you in part, and I disagree with you in part. If you look back a year ago, I think that the council did their part. We go back and say, well, the council should have done more due diligence. I think the council did their part back when they allocated $130,000. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is, you look at this services provided by these vendors. If the name Soljazz Fest wasn't here, and it's just DeSoto, because whenever Soljazz name was used, it was the DeSoto Soljazz Fest. So we would have most likely been comfortable with this expenditure of dollars for marketing and promoting DeSoto. So I think that it makes sense to allow these dollars to be spent the way they intend to be spent, and that's on marketing DeSoto, which is what the DeSoto Soljazz Fest did. I think what's happening is we're allowing the name Soljazz Fest to affect what we think about the allocation and expenditure of dollars. And I agree that there was mismanagement. And I told the executive committee that. I told the president of the chamber that. But in business, you solve problems. The way to help solve this problem and to help DeSoto is to authorize the expenditure of these dollars on what they were intended for, and that's advertising and promoting DeSoto, and that's what was done.
Well, it's easy to solve problems with other people's money. And if this was a successful use of the money, this thing will end up costing about $400 per ticket sold. Don't tell me that was successful advertising.
I'd like to say that we knew with going in that this could be a success or not. As a matter of fact, we talked about how the first year of any big festival is usually not a success. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we allow the chamber to, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, to reallocate $50,730 from their budget.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Valentine, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Questions, comments? Council, you prepared to place your votes, or we're not up? Prepared to raise your hand. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes 4-3. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chamber.
Thank you.